another one.
All right. So the question was, which someone asked this question on a Discord. It said, "What is a test automation framework and its purpose?" So the way that I answered this question, I think a lot of times, especially when you're new or when you just maybe just know how to use it, but you don't really know the details about it, people can easily confuse the page object model with the with a framework, right? The page object model is not a framework. You know, it's more of it's a style. It's a model, right? So here's what the framework is, and this is how I broke it down, right? And let me know what you guys think in the chat. Um, the framework is, to me, something that can be reused across projects, right? Across, because I mean, you can only have one project and use it and use that with, but to me, it should be flexible enough that it doesn't require any particular, like it's not tightly coupled to a particular project. So what do I mean by that? It's not tightly coupled, right? So the way that it would be is that framework, you should be able to import it as a library or as a package into any like into any automation project that you're using, right? So let's say we'll use this example, right? So let's say you need to automate Abercrombie, right? Or you need to automate Delta, whatever the industry is, like some bank site, right? Whatever the industry is, you should be able to have that same test automation framework to be used across all three of those projects. There shouldn't be anything specific to one of those sites in your framework. So what would that include? And you know what? I need to put the time up. Hold on. Because you guys are not going to have me answering these questions all night long. All right. So let's do it. So yeah, what I was saying is, so when it comes to the automation framework, right? That's going to include how you set up your drivers, right? And what the drivers are. So the drivers are the browsers. Like essentially, they're the browsers, right? What controls the browsers? So in a solid test automation framework, you would have where you can say, okay, which browser I want the test to run in. So you can have it for Chrome, Firefox. I guess they still have Internet Explorer that it can run in, but most likely you're going to be using Edge. You can do it in, I believe you can do it in Safari on the Mac. That one's a little tricky sometimes, but I believe you can do it in Safari. And then they have Opera and stuff like that. Browsers, like many people don't use Opera. They also have where you can do it in what is that? Chromium, right? Like Chrome is built on top of Chromium, so you can do it in all of those. But in the framework, you want to be able to specify. Okay, you set it up so that you can choose which browser that the tests are going to run on, right? So that's one part of the framework, right? And then you should also be able to configure it so that your tests run parallel, right? Which, give me a second to go on a little tangent right now, a little rant. I remember an interview that I had where interview that I had back in January, where one of the contractors were brought on. I made a video about this, right? And I said that I was working on a framework in Java so that I can have the tests run in parallel and have the driver, like you don't have to declare the driver in every single test that you create. And he was like, all right, be respectful. He was like, how do you expect to make that work, right? Like I couldn't do it. And I was like, well, I'm still working on it, but I'm gonna figure it out. But yeah, he didn't believe me. I didn't get the position. But on the bright side, Later that night, I figured it out, and so I got the test running in parallel, right? Through using whichever browser it wanted, and it wasn't having that conflicting browser issue that like a lot of people end up having, and the reason they have to do their parallel tests differently. I got mine fully optimized and running well, and then I got a job at a better company anyway. So, but yeah, so yeah, let me get back on point. But I told you, I don't lose. I'm a savage, all right? So, yeah. Anyways, back to the framework. So you want it to be able to run in parallel. So part of the framework, you're going to include the library that handles the tests and stuff. So if it's Java, usually that's going to be TestNG to handle that. So you have TestNG in the framework, so it can handle like your test, your test, your TestNG handles your test, like being able to execute them, all that, like the XML file. You also want to have like the parameterized things in your test framework, right? So that way you can start up your test saying, all right, I want this test to run in this browser, I want this series of tests to run in that browser, all that stuff, right? In addition, now in your framework, you also want your reporting in the framework, right? And I haven't even touched on the actual functionality of how you're going to be tested. Right now, I'm just talking about everything on the outside of the framework that empowers it to be able to run and to work across projects. You can just import it and all that type of stuff, right? Um, what's next? So now, when we get into Selenium part of it, right? So the framework does not include like the page object model. That the page object model part, you just like, you do that as part of the project because there's going to be different pages. Like with the pages that are on Delta aren't going to be on Southwest, aren't going to be on American Airlines. They're not going to be on Abercrombie. They're not going to be on ASOS. So the page object model that goes as part of the actual project that you're working on, right? So the site that you're working on. So, but you do what you do want to have. You want to have simplified methods for whatever it is that you're doing. But let's say we're talking about Selenium in this case. You want to have simplified methods, right? So, what do I mean by simplified methods? What I would do is I would say, all right, I would take all the main methods of that Selenium offers, like click, what do they say? I forgot what it is for Java, but for I think it's input or something like that for Java, but I forgot. I haven't I don't normally remember the syntaxes, right? But I would say for I would say like where you type in certain keys and stuff like that, characters. So you take all of those methods, right? And then you make them easier. So you're saying web element dot click, and you say like click on element or click, and then you just pass the web element to it. You pass your, like if you're passing any text to it, that gets logged to a to like logging or to the console, whatever it is, right? So I have a method for click, right? And then I say, all right, when I call this method for click, it passes the web element, and then it's gonna log this text to the console. It'll do the WebDriver wait for waiting for it to become clickable. Anything that it needs to do, I just have a simple method that does all of that, and then you just pass it in, and it takes care of that, right? I do the same thing for like for like filling out text. For instance, I'll do a method that'll have clear the text and then to type in the text, right? And whatever other methods that there are, right? So it takes care of all of that, and all I have to do is pass in the web element. And now when I'm doing the actual automation in the project, then I'll say to I'll say when I call click, then everything is taken care of. I don't have to write a bunch of code because I like in the project the test to look as clean as possible. You should just be able to read it line by line by line, and you know exactly what it's doing, right? Um, Anything else I'm missing in the framework? So I got the reporting, I got the driver setup thing, the parallel running. Oh yeah, API tests. You want it to also be set up to be able to do API, like to run API tests. So something that I would do, I would have one class for my web actions that would take care of what I just spoke about, the clicks. Have another class for my API actions where I can do my posts, I can do my posts, I can do my gets, I can do my puts, my patches, my deletes, all that stuff, right? So now in one actual test, right? In one test, I can do an API to stage data. I can do web tests to navigate through the site so the data is already there, and so it makes it very optimal. And then I can use that across any project that I'm working on. If I'm working with other QAs and I create the framework, they can pull in that framework into their project, and it just makes it so much easier for them to automate instead of having to like do everything over. And it, like, if I push an update, they just have to update their version, and then they have all those updates, and life is gold. All right. So that is what, in my point of view, a test automation framework is and what it is used for. All right. So before I end the question, I am going to get some feedback because I saw some things piling in, and we work with our teammates. All right. So Don says, page object model equals a design pattern. Yes, that's what it is. Me and terminology, yeah, it's terrible. All right, so let's see. All right, cool. But I think we are good on the test automation framework question. So
if you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.
Enigmatic Joker.